Today we're going to talk about Lesson 2-7, explaining addition and subtraction related facts. The big idea today is the addition property of equality explains how addition and subtraction facts are related and help solve equations of the form a plus x is equal to b. And what this is it tells us how we do our algebra. If we were trying to find x here, the inverse of adding a is subtracting a. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do it to the other side. Okay? You have to balance it out. Okay? My a's are gone, leaves me with x, which is what I want. And b minus a is equal to b minus a. Now, if those were numbers, we could go ahead and subtract them. Since they're not, we have to leave it in this manner. That tells us x is equal to b minus a. Now, if you notice the process Mr. Johnson did, it's nice, neat, organized, keeps everything in line. I expect you to do the same thing. The book gives us this great triangle, okay? If you know that two addends, those are the numbers that are added together, are equal to a sum. Okay, a sum minus an add-in will give you the other add-in. Sum minus one add-in will give you the other. So for instance, they said 6 plus 8 gives me 14. 8 plus 6 also gives me 14. 14 minus 6 gives me 8, and 14 minus 8 gives me 6. Okay, that's how the triangle works. So moving along here, you can do the same thing with fractions and negative integers. Okay, if you look at this, 1/4 plus 1/2 equals 3/4. You could check that on your calculator. Okay. 1/2 plus 1/4 equals 3/4. 3/4 minus a fourth is going to give me 1/2. 3/4 minus 1/4 is 2/4, which is 1/2. 3/4 minus a half equals 1/4. Let's look at our integers and make sure it works for there. A negative 12 plus 7. Signs are different, so you subtract. Gives me 12 minus 7 is 5. The negative's on the 12, so we use the sign of the bigger number. Okay? 7 plus a negative 12, same thing. Signs are different, so you subtract. Sign's bigger on the negative 12, so it becomes out a negative 5. If I say a negative 5 minus a minus 12, well, minus a minus becomes plus. Yes, Mr. Johnson hates two-symbol deals. So negative 5 plus 12, signs are different, so you subtract. Gives you 7. Sign of the bigger number is plus, so you use plus. Okay? A negative 5 minus 7, signs are the same, so you add them together. 5 plus 7 is 12. Both their signs are negative, so you use the negative symbol. What number goes in the empty corner of the fact triangle below? Write the 4 related facts. Okay? Here's my question mark. Okay? So, we're going to say a negative 30 minus 8 equals some number. Well, what's a negative 30 minus 8? Signs are the same, so we add them together. 30 plus 8 is 38. And since the signs are same, this is negative as well. So let's see if it works for the rest of them. Okay? Negative 30 minus, right here, and then my question mark is a negative 38, I said, equals 8. Does that work? Well, minus a minus is plus. So I got a positive number plus a negative number, so you subtract. 38 minus 30 is 8. Okay? Sign of the bigger number is plus, so it's plus 8. Did it work? Yes. Let's try it this way, going this way. 8 plus a negative 38. Does that equal a negative 30? Signs are opposite, so you subtract. 38 minus 8 is 30. Sign of the bigger number is a negative, so you put on a negative. The last way is a negative 38 plus 8 is equal to a negative 30. Same process. Signs are different, so you add, or subtract, sorry. Signs are different, so you subtract. Gives me 30. Sign of the bigger number is a negative. The addition property of equality. You're going to want to write all these properties down. For all real numbers a, b, and c, if a equals b, then a plus c equals b plus c. If a and b are the same, okay? So for instance, 2 plus 5, c is 5, is equal to 2 plus 5. Is that correct? Yeah, if I add 5 to one side and 5 to the other side, it still gives me the same thing. Okay? Subtraction property. This basically says the same thing. If I subtract 5 from both sides, does it give me the same thing? Yes. It changes it a little bit, but if you subtract 5 from both sides, you're still balancing out your scale. Okay? And then this is our related facts property. This is where you got all 4 of those things. So it's a plus b equals c, b plus a equals c, c minus b equals a, and c minus a equals b. Okay? Those are the 4 related facts, and you're going to have to do that. Okay? That your book gives you. Example 1. Solve the equation x plus a negative 8 equals a negative 30. Using a fact triangle. So I'm going to draw my triangle. Hopefully I made it big enough. My sum goes on top. So these are my add-ins. This is my sum. So my sum is a negative 30. So that goes up here. Okay? So I put one add in here. I put the other add in over here. My plus here, my minus up here. So in order to find this x, I'm going to go backwards. So a negative 30 minus a minus 8 equals, minus a minus is plus. Well, what's a negative 30 plus 8? Well, it is, signs are different, so you subtract. Gives me 22. Negative on the bigger number, so it's a negative 22. So x equals a negative 22. Okay? How would I do this using the subtraction property of equality? Well, technically I would use the addition property of equality because I hate two-signed problems. And this is what I mean by two-sign. You have a plus, a negative. Well, what is plus a negative? Plus a negative is a minus. Mr. Johnson hates two signs. It just confuses everybody. Get it to one sign so you know what you need to do. So I would actually use the addition property of equality. So the inverse, I'm trying to get x by itself. So the inverse of subtracting 8 is adding 8. Whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. It balances out my scale. So these are going to add out because a negative 8 plus 8 is 0, leaves me with just x. A negative 30 plus 8, signs are different. Okay? So I subtract, gives me 22. And as you can see, sign of the bigger is negative, so I got the same answer. Okay? You're going to have to know how to do it this way right here. You're not always going to be able to draw up a fact triangle. Okay? Example 2, solve the equation negative 3.4 minus y is equal to 6.1. Same thing. If you notice here, here's my negative sign, so that's what you got to be careful with. You got to draw your triangle. This says a negative 3.4 minus y. Well, when we subtracted, we started up here and then subtracted, right? So a negative 3.4 has to go on top. A negative 3.4 minus y, okay, has to equal 6.1. So in this case, my add-ins were y and 6.1. Well, if you look at this, we're going to work backwards. A negative 3.4 minus 6.1 has to equal y. Well, both these have the same sign, so you add them together. What's 3.4 and 6.1? You're going to tell me 9.5. Use the sign of them both is negative, and that gives me my y. Could you check and see if it works for everything else? Sure. Does a negative 9.5 plus 6.1 equal a negative 3.4? Well, since the signs are different, you subtract. 5 minus 1 is 4. 9 minus 6 is 3. So that gives me 3.4. Sign of the bigger number is negative. So yeah, it does work. How about using our properties? Okay, the first thing I got to do is move this 3.4 over. So the inverse of subtracting 3.4, adding 3.4. And I'm trying to find y here. So those are going to add out, leaves me with the negative y. Well, 6.1 plus 3.4 is 9.5. But we just want y. This negative y means the opposite of y. So if the opposite of y is 9.5, what is y? Well, the opposite of a positive 9.5 is a negative 9.5. And my answers match up. Two more properties that I need you to know. The additive identity property. The additive identity property says if I take a number and add 0 to it, I am left with that regular number. We all know 3 plus 0 equals 3, right? This is the additive identity. If you add 0, you are going to get the same thing. Identity means you get out the same thing. What number do you add something to get out the same thing? Well, you add 0 to it. Can't add any other number. The additive inverse property says, what can I add to something to get out 0? Okay? Well, if I take some number and add its opposite to it, I'm left with 0. So a negative 3 plus 3 is equal to 0. A negative 5 plus its opposite, which is a positive 5, is equal to 0. Okay? These are two properties you need to know. I expect to see those in your notes. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later.